So I was going over the video I made yesterday with bunny boots, and I realized my explanation of regulations and how they differ from statutes was not particularly understandable. I wasn't entirely sober when I was recording it, so I do apologize about that. The reason why it was so hilarious to me that he was mixing up the Code of Federal Regulations and the U.S. Code is that one is made by Congress. U.S. codes are made by Congress. They are, it's hard to change them, and they have teeth. Whereas regulations are made by the individual bureaus and agencies and departments. They are authorized by Congress to make those regulations, but they are different in how they work. So 5 USC 301 Departmental Regulations. This is a very generic authorization. The head of a executive department or military department may prescribe regulations for the government of his department, the conduct of its employees, the distribution and performance of its business, and the custody, use, and preservation of its records, papers, and property. This section does not authorize withholding information from the public or limiting the availability of records to the public. This is a very generic one. Each department is going to have their own congressional delegation of authority to make these rules and regulations. And the big difference between a regulation and a statute is typically a statute is going to have an enforcement mechanism in it, and it's going to be a crime. You could get fined for failure to comply with certain regulations. Like the FCC has been given the authority to control what goes on the airwaves. So the FCC has made rules saying that you can't say certain words on broadcast television. And the penalty for failing to comply with that regulation is you get a fine. That company gets a fine. It's not a crime to say those words on the airwaves. You got to pay a fine, as opposed to like violating one of the 18 USCs. You saw that they had penalties attached to them. A year in jail, a fine, and a fine and the year in jail kind of thing. So Congress can make these regulations a little stickier, like they've done here. This is 50 USC Section 797. I just grabbed these kind of at random, so I'm not trying to make a point with it, but this is a penalty for violation of security regulations and orders. They have turned security regulations into something that you can actually get a misdemeanor over. Misdemeanor violation of defense property security regulations. Whoever willfully violates any defense property security regulation shall be fined under Title 18, imprisoned not more than 1 year, or both. So remember, Title 18 is the criminal law section of the USC. So they're saying that you can get, if you violate security regulations, you can be charged under Title 18, like that one we looked at yesterday. I think that was 18 USC 1382, or in prison for not more than 1 year, or both. So they can get you under Title 18 and then get you under this 50 USC 797. So this is a case where Congress has gone in and made violating a regulation into a law, or into a criminal act. There are some, this 25 CFR, Bureau of Indian Affairs, Law and Order, we're going to go into courts, criminal offenses. Oh, hey, look. So in this CFR, you have criminal offenses. Oh, no. You have a bunch of criminal offenses. Like here's criminal trespass. A person commits an offense if, knowing that he is not licensed or privileged to do so, enters surreptitiously, he remains in a building or occupied structure, blah, blah, blah. So this is a crime. It's a misdemeanor, and it is a regulation. But this is because Congress has the power to control the Indian territories. That was given to Congress by the Constitution. So they have set up the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which is going to function essentially like a state government for these territories. And in order for the Bureau of Indian Affairs to enforce the law, they have to have laws to enforce. And so they've used regulations to create them, etc. But it was part of the congressional delegation of authority that the Bureau of Indian Affairs would have the power to create and enforce laws for the Indian territories. So I hope that helps kind of explain the difference between regulations and actual statutes, and why I thought it was hilarious when Bunny Boots was thinking that statutes were CFRs. It's kind of silly. Anyway, have a great day and happy auditing.